Okay, we're out at the balloon field in Albuquerque, New Mexico with RedBeard and his red Cessna. And he took this one up so I can practice a couple of things I wanted to practice on my skills, because it's a nice, beautifully slow plane that I can, the more you go slow, the more room you give me to do whatever it is I'm practicing. And like now you see I'm in sport mode and he's well below 60. So I could do a lot of things in this. It's just I can't drop or rise at the agility that I need. But I was just kind of having fun following him around in sport mode. If you're learning how to do this, if you can get a plane like this and stay in sport mode, it would be great. You just can't dive down. And as you see now, I'm stopping and I'm switching over to manual, because you see the little pause, the nose goes up, which means I'm matching the sticks. And now he's like, where is he? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? He's not a jet. So he's like, I'm up. And I'm like, up. So I just keep rising up, and there you go. I see him in the top of the goggles. I'm like, okay, you just kind of glided up. So here we're gonna try and go over the top of him, an inverted loop, keeping him in the visual the whole time. And I do it, and then I back off. I just flip it around because I got a pucker. Something was telling me the ground, and I pulled up, but I didn't have to. Look how high up off the ground. We're over 400 feet up, so we're great. So I get that back together, and I'm like geeking at that moment because I at least got that far. All I need to do is do the coming up part. I got the diving down part, keeping him in sight, but I got to keep him in sight and rise up behind him. So here we go. We're going to prep it again. He's coming around nice, slow. Look at his speed, 45. He's like, okay, well, give me a moment. I'm going to gain some altitude. Look at that speed. I mean, look at that. The Cessna is perfect for this. He's basically just going straight up almost. So I got plenty of wiggle room because I'm in manual. So I got plenty of wiggle room. Going over the top, pointing down at him, pointing at him, and then last minute I chickened out. But you see, I was like at 200 and change. I could have kept it on him and rose up behind him. Once you get the muscle memory for something like that down, it can then pick up the speed. I can then, concentrate it down to where I lost about 200 feet in that. I can condense it down to where I only lose about 100. So it's a little stunt that I can do. If we're 200 feet off the ground, I can do this little stunt. And of course, he flies really nice low like that. Now, the distance I am from him is a good distance to start if you're just trying to learn, because you're too far away to really worry about running into him. And he's not really flying that fast. And I don't want to do a straight line across the ground like that, because my mind is on the little stunt that I just did. And what else do I want to work on? Now, if I was doing a chase, I could chase him across the ground like that. And he's doing a nice one of his inverts. Now he said, I think he's on that one, said he was going to invert. So you notice I went up with him, but not pointed up with him. I went off to the side like a spectator. In that pass right there, it looks like, oh my God, he almost hit him. But no, I was able to tell I'm going faster than him. He can't accelerate like that. It's not a jet. So I know I'm going faster than him. So I know I can cross his nose, no problem. Because as long as I get through and don't linger, he can't hit me because he can't accelerate like that. Not to mention, we're standing right next to him and he's telling me, okay, if you're going to do something, So he's holding it steady. Right now he's trying to do a knife edge and the wind is blowing him to the left. And that's a sloppy knife edge. Now I noticed that his velocity to the left was faster than my velocity to the left to try and keep him in view. So I backed up off of it, because that's a collision. I back up off of him and I know he's going to cross in front of me on purpose. That's better than trying to hold that position and have him fly into me. And I don't really like to be on the people side of the field when I know that's where people are. I just prefer to be on the other side. So if he was in the middle and did that knife edge, I would have tried to stay to his outside left. And here he has, it's supposed to be a 4-point turn. And I said, well, you got a couple of extra points in there. So it's kind of like a 6-point turn, and we were laughing about it. So he was practicing a couple of things, but he really did fly this plane so that I could have some wiggle room and try some tricks that I wanted to practice. And this is a good plane for that. Now, we're not really talking to each other well at this point, and that's why I'm so far back. He said he's gonna go up. I think he's gonna do a tail over where he just does the tail. Now, normally I'm right on the tail, and I would do the turn, the left stick to the left, right there with him, but we weren't talking, so that's how far back I go. And on that one, I thought he was gonna land, but he didn't say landing, but it looked like he was gonna land, so I'm like, oh, but he's not landing, so we're not talking well at this point. And if you're not talking with the person you're chasing, you need to be about a little bit further back than this, but this is pretty good with this plane because it's so slow, because anything that he's not telling you, you have to catch it with your eyes by watching his wings, watching his nose, his tail, and you gotta guess. And if you guess wrong, you're gonna eat it. That's why I fly slightly off center. You'll typically look up in the arrow in the right, you'll see that the arrow is never really straight in the flight path. It's off to the left, it's off to the right. I cannot hit him like that because I'm not basically pointed at him. And it also gives me a head start on any escape move. If I'm slightly pointed left, then that means I can turn even more left very easy. And I tell him that I got low battery, and he's just flying along, and I'm calling out 20%, 32%, whatever percentage I am. And then I think I got down here and I said, well, I'm 16%, I'm coming in. And then he said, landing. And I said, well, okay, I'll get your landing since you're coming in and I'm coming in. But if he didn't, I gotta come in. Can't get so wrapped up in what the pilot is doing that you forget that your battery will go dead, especially in a Cessna. He can fly longer. Me, on the other hand, not so much. But that was about a 6 and change minute flight. And you saw the speed he was going, so that was pretty good. Okay, and then we're gonna have the second flight coming up here. That was the first, or actually, that was the second flight. Now we're gonna go back to the first flight because I wanted to show the trick first. Short attention span theater and all. So I wanted to get that out first. Now this is the first flight we actually did that day. Of course, warming up because, first flight. So, and of course, I always like to do a little quick orbit. I'm telling you, this maneuver, getting it in your muscle memory, you're going to do it time and time again, either a half of an orbit, a vertical orbit, some version of an orbit you're constantly going to be doing if you're going to learn to chase. Even cars, boat, it doesn't matter, even people. When you overshoot, the best way to keep the shot is to orbit. So that's just a maneuver you really do need to learn. Again, I'm in sport mode. You see his speed. He's well below the 60 miles an hour. That is the limiting factor of the sport. The other limiting factor, I can't dive. So my vertical up and down is severely limited. That's why you want to be in manual. But he's going so slow. Cessna is perfect for that. And you see, I decided to go into manual, come to a stop, match my screen, and then boom, you see I put that nose down because I need to catch him. Now, where is he? Where is he? And now there I go looking for him. I see the dot and I tell him, got you. Because he'll say, I say, where are you? He'll say, I'm off to the left of the field. And I'll look and I'll say, got you. And then when I come up on him, right about here, I said, I'm on you. That lets him know that he doesn't have to fly level and straight. With jets, this really helps. He can start doing his maneuvers. If he's going to do a routine, it lets him know, now's the time to start it. I got you. I'm on you. I see you and I've caught up to you. I'm trying to remember what it was he was saying at this point, but I think he said he was going to take it straight up, and you see he kind of bailed out on it because the Cessna is not a jet, but he loves his inverts, and there he goes, inverted, nice. I could have been closer. I don't know what I was thinking, but this was the first flight, and you got a little rust on them thumbs, and you got to get in the groove. It's like a rhythm. And this was the first flight of the day that we did. So I wasn't in the rhythm, and you don't push it because that's when you hit it. And you see he's doing, I've lost him again. He went up and I was going too slow. The bad thing about the Cessna, when he does the vertical maneuvers, I need the momentum to throw the drone up and over. And I didn't have it, so I bailed. Usually in that thing, you would bail by just hitting the throttle and going up like an elevator and keeping him in sight. So you can go up, but you won't be pointed up. You'll be rising like Lazarus from the tomb, and then you would get the shot that way. But you can't nose up because you don't have the momentum. If you nose up, you'll just start falling that backwards that much faster. Which, if that's the shot you want, just remember the ground is unforgiving when you fall into it backwards. And of course, he does some excellent inverted flying. At one point, he almost touches the tail on the ground, and he does a low turn and almost touches the wing on the ground. He is quite insane. So, and he does that with his jets too, so it's just as bad. So here we have it. Now, like I said, if we're talking, I can get close. See, he was really close to the tail. Me and his camera woman, his daughter, we both were like, all right, keep it up. You'll be taking pieces home. But he's really good at this. And as you see, he's doing some maneuvers here when he's not telling me what he's doing. So it's hard for me to adjust. Like right now, I don't see him. I know he's near me, so I don't want to go looking for him. You notice I did the little curly cue to the left because I know he wouldn't be over there. But you don't go searching when you're that close to his plane, because you'll find him and you won't like it. This whole time I know where he is. I'm kind of playing around with him because, I mean, see how slow he's going. He's all mine. At that point, he is all mine. He's at 30 miles an hour. My top speed on it in manual is about 85, so I have 50 miles an hour of leeway and plenty of acceleration. I can accelerate much faster than a Cessna in level flight. And so here I wanted to creep up on the side and really get him from the side at a 90-degree angle, but I wasn't moving fast enough. I wasn't getting in the groove. Now this is on me and not on him. You gotta move it. You can't sit there and think, no. You can't hit him if you're going sideways off to his left. So you gotta do it, you gotta commit. So like here, I'm just like playing with how much can I play around his wing, and I ended up overshooting because of my camera angle, which I will show y'all as some footage later. Again, this is just lazy practice for the both of us. And I told him, I said, he needs to work on talking through the maneuvers. Okay, I'm gonna make a left turn, I'm gonna make a right turn, I'm gonna dive down, I'm gonna come low across the field, because this lets me know what the plane is gonna do next. It helps me with my guessing. And here we are, he's coming in for a landing if I'm not mistaken. And he's gonna land in the grass, and I'm already lined up. I already got the camera angle set, I think. We'll find out if I overshoot, then I didn't. So no, the camera angle is good. And I'm changing that with my left finger intermittently. And I think he did a wave off, which is fine. It gives me a chance to double check camera angle. Also gives me a chance to get up on him. No, he's not landing. Okay, and I know at this point I told him 22% on battery or whatever, because I usually do it right at somewhere around 20. So you see the battery is dropping. And see now you saw how much he slowed down? I can't slow down like that if the camera angle isn't ready. So he ended up getting on the ground before I could find him. I wasn't gonna drop down to find him. That's a good way to hit him. I know he's not coming up, I know he's going down. So I'm not gonna drop down to find him or look down to find him, because that would mean increasing the speed and also matching his altitude, and we're both going in the same direction. If I knew where he was for sure, I could do that. And at some point, I'll just get used to coming to a stop. But if you come to a stop, you got to gain that momentum again. And he's in the landing phase. So this is it. And I'm going to do a really quick insert on camera angles of the drone. And then I'm going to end it. So I know this is kind of long. If there's any things I need to go over again, somebody drop it in the notes. Okay, I wanted to go over real quick the angle on the camera. Now, keep in mind, I'm teaching myself this stuff, so the terminology I'm using, I'm pretty much making up. If you know the right terminology, please go ahead and leave it in the comments, because I like to learn this. I can teach myself, but I learn better with input, since I'm the only person I know who does particularly this stuff that I can directly talk to. But if someone out there knows, feel free to fill me in on what I get wrong. Okay, now, on the drone, it's typically flying on level flight, straight, is like this, pointed like this. If you have the camera angle set at 0, straight ahead, that means if you need to pick up speed, this isn't a plane. You don't just hit the throttle and it goes faster, even going straight. Drones don't do that. For a drone to go fast, it has to lean. And faster you go, faster it leans. Racing drones pretty much fly around almost like this. So if your camera angle is 0, you'll be looking at the ground the whole time. It's really hard to fly, even harder to chase. So I've come up with chasing anything that's below 60 miles an hour, I usually stay really close to about 15 degrees up on the angle. If I'm chasing something between 60 and the mid 70s, right around 20, 21, 22, somewhere around there. And since you can control that on this, you can change it as you go. With a fixed ordinary drone, it's fixed. Whatever angle you put it at, that's what you got. So you got to get it right, and I'll show you the differences. And if I'm going to do a jet, usually when I'm doing jets, I'm almost 30 degrees up. And at 30 degrees up, if you're in the center of my view, like any of my videos, you see the jet is centered. That means I'm like this, which gives me pretty good speed as far as maintaining, because you know they're flying around at 80 miles an hour and you got to be tilted. Okay, so here's the thing. If it's a permanently mounted angle, like on a normal drone, say it's at 0. That means when you're level, it's straight. That means if you need to pick up speed, you're going to lose sight of whatever you're chasing because you're pointed at the ground. If you're going, let's say we put it up at about, let's say, I think that's about 10 or 15. Then that means when I'm keeping you dead in sight, I am moving slightly forward. Let's say this is, let's say it's 20 miles an hour. Let's say this gets us 20 miles an hour. If the plane you're chasing or whatever you're chasing goes faster than that, you're gonna have to tilt more. If you don't change the angle on the camera, you will now have the target at the top of the frame. In the video and in the goggles, you'll have it now at the top of the frame. If he goes any faster, you're gonna lose him, or you have to go up. See how you have to raise that? And that's a lot of the shots you see with me coming down is because the angle isn't quite right. And to keep him in view and gain speed, I need to be up. I need to manually, physically move the drone so that he stays in shot. Same as if I have it up that high and he goes slow and I need to slow down. To slow down, I gotta pitch down, which means the camera's now pointed up. The target is in the bottom of the frame. So the only way I can slow down, and say I do that and I'm not slowing down enough and I'm still coming up on him, I can then just kill the throttle and start to drop. That will put him back in mid-frame. So when you see me doing the picture of the target, it's going up and down. It's because I'm trying to get my speed just right. I'm trying to bleed off. I'm trying to gain up. I'm trying to bleed off. And I'm trying to get in there. Kind of like a boxer who stays on his toes. He's jabbing, he's staying on. I'm bracketing. I'm too fast. Or I'm too slow. Speed up. Too slow. Too fast. Slow down. Speed up. Slow down. Speed up. Slow down. And I'm doing this and trying to feel my way into the pocket, which is the spot you want to be, all while being helped by the pilot, of course, who's telling me what he's doing. And I see he's coming near the end of the runway. He's going to start a turn. The person I got the inspiration to do this little talk to, looking at my computer. turbinefancy. I'm not sure I'm getting your name right. turbinefancy. I'll leave a link in the description. Love his work, but he's doing chases from the inside of the plane. His camera is in another plane and he's doing it. They're not the same. I can do things in the drone when chasing that he can't do in the plane, and vice versa. So like I said, so you got to adjust that, and you got the different angles. When I was chasing the Cessna, I had it right below 20, and that's fine because he was flying god awfully slow.
but he was able to go even slower when you saw him rise up on the wind because it was coming at him. I would have been better off with a 0 angle. Now I can change the angle with my finger on the controller, but it's something I'm reluctant to do, because if I bump it too much, you can't be sitting there concentrating on, oh, it's the angle, while you're creeping up on another plane. So you have to get that muscle memory, and that's what I'm basically working on, that muscle memory. And I need to be at 0 when he does that. But for the most part, I'm below 20, chasing him, and that means I'm not going to be going super fast. I'm going about this, but he's going super slow. Now with the jet, I'm close to 30 degrees up. And at 30 degrees up, this is my cruise speed. He's in the center of the frame. That means the drone is like this. He's not going to slow down like that Cessna unless he does a high alpha. High alpha is when you hold the nose of the plane up and it's just creeping along in the wind. RedBeard is getting pretty good at that maneuver. When he does that, it's all about communication. If he says, I'm going to do a high alpha on this next pass down the field, so I'll come around in the turn, and sometime in the turn, since I don't really need to concentrate on him, because once I'm in the turn, hold what you got, you'll stay in that turn. I need to crank down that angle and get it down to Cessna level, down in the low 20s or just below 20. So I'm almost dead on. I'm just slightly up, which means I can go really slow, because you'll see in some of his high alphas, he's barely moving. I've gotten a couple of them, and that's when you're seeing me do the tricks around it and going underneath it. Main reason why I'm going underneath it is because the angle's too high. I'm going too fast. So rather than slow down, because at this point, he's slowing down, which means I need to put him he's at the top of the frame, because I'm trying to slow down. So that's raising my camera up, even with the angle, because that's where I have it set. And he's up at the top of the frame, and he's starting to go beyond, because I'm about to blow past him, because I can't come to a stop, because then I'll be pointing at the sky. So what I do, the only other way to fix that, kill the throttle. You'll start to drop. As you drop, he's back in the center of the frame, but now you're below him. And on some of those, I just let it go below him. I still have that velocity, so I'm still passing him, but I'm now underneath him. I'm looking up underneath him. I'm doing my orbit. Orbits are very important. I'm doing my orbit in that same condition, and then I start coming up the other side. At this point, I've lost all my speed when I started going sideways and falling and underneath him. So now I matched his speed. I now come back up the other side because of that angle. If I had the angle right, or if I lowered it in action, I can just lower it and then I can slow. I can lower it down to 0 and damn near hover, he would still be in frame. I'd lose the speed and then I'd pick the speed up. And that's how you do it with a DJI drone, because the gimbal moves. On a regular drone, it's fixed. Now, pilots who are better than me, and no, I am by no means the best, they know ways of getting that shot, and they can't change their angle. I don't know how they do it. I can't talk to any of them because I don't know any of them, but there's a way. But with the DJI drone, you could just change the angle. Even on the Avata, you could just change the angles. Very useful, very helpful. Like I said before, that's pretty much all I got. In the video, you can see on the left-hand side, you'll see the gimbal angle. And the best way to think of it is, if the pitch gauge, also on the left-hand side of the data, if the pitch is 0 and the gimbal is showing 15, then that's where I have it set. The thing is, if I pitch the drone up, say I pitch the drone up to 10, that's about 10. Then the gimbal angle on the screen should show positive 20, because I have it set for 10 above 0. So it'll show 20, same thing in reverse. So you can kind of see how it works. Now, if you have it set at 10 and you go full, give it the full Monty, it can only go up so far. And at that point, it will, you get it, you know what happens, it'll stop travel. Same thing with going, putting on the brakes. It'll do the same, it can only maintain it within a certain parameter. If you do this too much, you'll see, you'll get a warning. I'm trying to remember what the warning is. It's gimbal something. I ignore it because I know why it's doing it. It's doing it because I'm giving it a connection by doing this, and this. So when I get my ND filters, which are on the way, when I get my ND filters, that's going to add weight to this motor, and that's where you get a lot of people complaining that they're getting a overheat or overload warning, because that's weight. It's like sticking your arm out, and it wouldn't be bad if I was just gliding around, but when you're doing this, that gimbal, it's only got a motor on one side if I'm not mistaken, and you're burning that motor. You're just burning it. Chasing is not the same as freestyling. It's not the same as cinematic. When you're freestyling, there is no target. You go where you want, you fly how you want. You're not constrained by anything other than the ground, don't hit it. When you're chasing, you are constrained by the target. And that goes for, well, I don't know if that goes for planes. You have to get with my man, turbinefancy. But with the drone, if you're trying to get the shot, you're constrained by what the plane does. So you can't go where you want to go. If you're freestyling, you can set the angle at whatever angle will help you maintain the speed you want to do your flying at. If I want to do my flying at 70 and just freestyle, then I'll set the angle at about 22, 25, because it doesn't matter if I'm looking at the ground or the sky. I'm not following anything anyway. But if you're chasing a target, it's very important that you get this angle right and adjust it. On landings, I need to be around 15%. With the Cessna, I need to be around 10% because of the speeds it lands at. Same thing with takeoff. But after takeoff, if it's a Cessna, you're around 20, give or take 5 degrees. If it's a jet, a big EDF jet, you need to be around, I say 26. Anything above 25. You got to be above 25, especially if you got a pilot who's new. Just to be safe, you want to keep him in, you want to have the flexibility of having him dead center when you're flying at about 78, 80 miles an hour. If you're flying at 80, you want this set so that he's in the middle of that screen, because that gives you the flexibility to punch it or drop it or jam it to the right, left. It gives you the ability to do that. So that's what you would do with this. This goes for the Avata also. This also goes for if you're chasing ground targets, if you're following people. All of these techniques work with those things. It's just that on the ground, you don't have to worry about so much of changing of altitude. You don't have to worry about it looping. You don't have to worry about losing sight of them and finding them at the very wrong place, because they're on a flat 2-dimensional plane. With things in the air, you got 3 dimensions. Don't even get me started on trying to follow a helicopter and, oh my God, following other drones. Without communication, all this stuff becomes very dangerous. Very dangerous for the aircraft involved. But as long as you're talking, it's less dangerous. But helicopters are hard. Drones, for me, are really hard. The bigger the plane, the better, because they can't change speeds like that. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link to RedBeard, of course, because I always do. I'm going to leave a link to turbinefancy. I know I'm saying it wrong. Please forgive. I'm going to leave a link to his great site. Go check it out. Amazing shots he's getting. He's got the camera in the canopy, and he's using the goggles, and he's flying. Just, you guys see it. So if anybody wants more of these, let me know. If anybody can help me with these, let me know, because I want to get an ordinary drone and learn how professional drone pilots do their chasing, because they can't do this. And I really want to learn how they do it, but I need to learn it from somebody who does chasing. Somebody who does freestyle, like I said, it is different. You can do what you want when you freestyle. You can do what you want when you want a cinematic. You just got to get the grand picture. You're constrained by the grand picture. But when you're doing chasing of cars, people, bikes, motorbikes, it's different, because you're focused on a target. You got to get the shot. You got to keep them in the shot. It's not a time for you to do tricks. It's a time to only do a trick if you need to do it to keep them in the shot. So with that caveat, I appreciate anybody who's stuck around this long. I appreciate the people who watch. If you can help, by all means help. If you have questions, by all means ask. I think that's about it. Let's see how this comes out. Thanks.